Hello world and welcome back to another episode of Ars Nouveau. We're going to be doing this one a little bit different because there's so much to cover, so we're going to be making up as we sort of go along today. However, we are going to be going all through how tier 2 spells are going to be used and created. Starting off, in order to get tier 2 spells, we're first going to need a tier 2 book, which means we need to upgrade our little novice spell book here. Now, don't worry, you don't have to go around deleting your spells. You can see that we have this harvest spell here in number 1. All the rest of mine are actually clear at the moment. But what you do is simply you have to upgrade your spell book. For that, you're going to need 3 diamonds, 2 blocks of quartz, 2 blaze rods, a piece of obsidian, and your novice spell book. Now, all you have to do is throw that in the crafting table and you instantly get the tier 2 version. Now, when you have the tier 2 version, what you can see is that your spells are actually saved in your tier 2 version. Now, in here, I'm going to have a lot more spells than you probably do because I've gone ahead and I've already unlocked all the tier 2 glyphs that you could possibly get. So I don't need this book anymore. In fact, you can see that there are some over there. But yeah, as you can see, there are now 9 different modifiers and then a heck of a lot of new spells. Let's see, 9, 18, 27, 28. 28 new spells. That's wrong maths. 19. I don't know why I thought that was 9. It was only 6. Anyway, so we're going to cover all of these today. Now, bearing in mind, you can use some of these to actually affect tier 1 spells. We're not going to go back and cover how these will affect tier 1, as when we went through all the tier 1 spells, I sort of covered some of these and how they affect them. So let's go over how you actually use all your augments first. Starting off, we're going to have AoE. AoE stands for Area of Effect. So if we start a brand new spell here, let's go, for example, we want Touch, and then we're going to want Mine. What we can do here is add an AoE. But just for example, what we're going to do here is we obviously know that Mine can just do 1 block at a time. However, if we add the AoE effects like this, if we add it once, we now get a 2x2 area. If we add it a second time, we now get a 3x3 area, as you see here. And we can add this a few more times. Obviously, the more times you add it, the more mana it's going to cost. But as you can see, we have 884 in total. So here you go. You can see that we're doing a rather large area. I can't actually see how much it is specifically, but we're doing quite large. Oh, there you go. A 7x7 area now. Quite effective. Now, Area of Effect can be used on other types of spells, but you just have to find which ones they want to be. Next, we're going to show off is Duration Down. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to make a new spell, and we're going to have this to be, let's say, a projectile, and we're going to use Conjure Mage Block. This is a tier 1 spell, and then we're going to use Generation Down. Now, the reason we know how this works is because Conjure Mage Block is going to create a block for a short period of time. If you use Duration Down, it's going to be around for even less time. That's how this one works. So we place this down, and now we've got a block, and after a period of time, it's going to disappear, as I will see on the screen over here. If I add Duration Down quite a few more times, it's going to be, the block's going to be here even less time. As you can see, it already breaks instantly. So you can have it not stay around for a long time. Now, I don't know the exact how much it decreases the time, but it looks like it's fairly significant. There you go, you only need 2. Obviously, you could use this on other types, so you could use it on Summon Steed or Summon Wolves, and they will be around for a less period of time. You can use this on other effects, such as Bounce, so you don't have the bounce effect for as long. This may be good if you have something like Feather Falling, because sometimes you can get stuck waiting for Feather Falling to finish, if I can find out where it is. There you go, Slow Fall. You might want Slow Fall to be a little bit slower, or last a little bit longer. Now, the other side of this is obviously Extend Time. Extend Time is going to be the exact same thing. It's just going to make them last even longer. So I could just have this block last here for an incredibly long amount of time. Or I could make my bounce last for an incredibly long amount of time. So let's give the example with bounce. If I give myself bounce, let's actually change it to self here. If I give myself bounce, we now have 30 seconds it gives us in total. If I have duration down, first, let's get some milk. Get a few bits of milk. Let's get rid of all that. Now I've got duration down. If I do it here, I now have 10 seconds less. Or about 9 seconds less, I would say it more is. If we do it again, but this time we'll have generation up, or extend time up, we now have 37 seconds or 38 seconds. So we could make this last a long time if we wanted. A minute 30 there. Next, we have decelerate and accelerate. These are very, very simple things. This only works on projectile types, as you see here. If I put it on self or touch or underfoot, it doesn't work. So it's only projectile types, and all it's going to do is speed up your projectile itself. So let's just have a simple, what do we want here? I suppose break's the best one, really. We have a simple break spell. We know that fires, and it will break a block a period away. But what we can do is we can add, before break, we can add accelerate, and then we can add break. And then it's obviously going to be a lot faster. It will obviously use up more mana as well, but obviously we are a lot faster. As well as that, if we wanted to have some other type of thing, maybe we wanted to fire it very, very slowly. I don't know why you'd want it to be slowly, but I'm sure there are reasons. And then do break again. We could have this go incredibly slow. Maybe you want to break a whole area at once. So you do something like that. And then it'll just break. I don't know. Up to you. Next we have is the gift of the Glyph of Fortune. Now the Glyph of Fortune is basically going to be working in two different ways. Let's put this on projectile for both, but we want to then have this to be the damaging one. There you go. We want to have harm. What we can do is then have Fortune on here, and it's going to increase the drop chance when killing or damaging mobs. As well as that, it's going to be destroying blocks. So we want this to be the harm one, and then we probably want to have a break one as well. We'll have this as Fortune. We'll give it a load of Fortune. So first, let's go for this one, which is obviously going to kill mobs, which we don't have it as very powerful at the moment, so we could increase our powerful. But as you can see, look, we've got absolutely loads of drops because of the amount of Fortune we have now. It's quite powerful. This is a very good early game tier 2 one to get, because you can sort of rush to tier 2 levels, really. Don't escape from me. Ah, they went. But if we now go to diamonds here, what we can do is mine. As you can see, we've got now the Fortune effect. So let's see how many diamonds we've got here. We've got how many in total? We had 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we had 16 here, and we ended up with 38. Not bad. Next up we have is Pierce. Pierce is going to be basically, as it says on the tin, it's going to be able to be like, say, if you think of Call of Duty, it's going to be like an FMJ effect. It's going to allow you to shoot through things with the projectile thing. So if we have Pierce here, and then we want to say we have, let's go for Break first. Break is going to now work essentially twice over. So if I fire Break through here, it's going to pierce through one block and break the next block as well. Now this can be stacked multiple times, so we can add obviously Pierce twice or 3 times, and then we'll add Break. And then instead of going just through 2 blocks, we're going to go through quite a few more through blocks, as you can see here. But this can be doubled up as well, because obviously with Break we can add AoE if we wanted to here, and that way we could end up doing a 3x3 but with multiple blocks at once. This could be a very powerful mining tool early on. Now, as well as this, because of Pierce, what you can do as well is actually have this with Harm. So with Harm, you will obviously be able to shoot through multiple mobs instead, except there's a spell here, so it's invalid. I suppose I can only do it once. Very strange. There you go. I knew you could do it. Maybe it's because something was active. But if I shot now, it would go through one mob and go through another one. Next here, we have Extract. Extract is going to be another various mining tool, really. So you could do Touch here, then we want to have Break, and then we want Extract. Extract is essentially now going to be our Silk Touch type. So now we are going to be able to get our grass blocks, as you can see here. Now this could also be used with Pierce and AoE, so you could mine all with basically the Silk Touch, but obviously you can't use this as it says in here. You're not going to be able to use this with the Fortune one, so you're going to have to basically try and make 2 spell books maybe, and have one be Fortune and one be with Extract, or you could have just 2 spells on the same book, I suppose. Now something else that also the glyph can do is it will stop the glyph explosion to destroy any blocks on the floor. Now we're going to go over explosion in a minute. It does not mean stop a piece of TNT from doing it. And then lastly we have Dampen. Dampen is essentially going to be the opposite to Amplify. So on Amplify with Break, it's going to allow you to break higher tiered blocks. So by default you can probably break stone, but you would need 1 amplify to break obsidian. Now the other thing you could do is dampen, and this will make it basically weaker. So if you had dampen, you might not even be able to break iron, if that makes sense. But as well as that, you could use dampen on things like harm, and this will actually reduce the amount of damage that it gives to an enemy, as well as other things as well. So dampen can be used on a myriad of other things, but it's also going to decrease your spell cost very slightly. So although you'll have less power, it will cost less, but it will never break. It cost below 0. And now that's all of our different augments, but how about we actually go over all our tier 2 spells now? As you can see, there's quite a lot. The first one is going to be Fell. Fell is very simple, and all it's going to do is allow us to basically top trees. This can be used with AoE and various other things as well. But what we do is we touch this and it will actually take a chunk out of the trees, not just chop the whole tree, just a chunk of wooded area essentially. So it chooses it in a weird priority, but obviously it's a lot faster than just using an axe. Next we have is Exchange. Exchange is going to be a little bit simple. It's going to be basically a way of, you know, exchanging your blocks, as you see here, with an item from your hotbar. So it does matter which way it is on the hotbar. I believe it's going to be basically something early on in your hotbar, as you can see here, because it wasn't really working too well. Always going to be the one closest to the left-hand side, I think. Because this can be anywhere as long as there's no other blocks, as you can see here, but when the blocks are back, it's not going to change it with itself, so you're going to have to change it back like that. But obviously it gives you sort of the Silk Touch effect by default, as if you swap the blocks with Silk Touch. But something else that you can really do is that if you use it on an entity, then you swap places with that entity. Next we have is Heal. Now what Heal is going to do is when you have taken a little bit of damage, like I am here, however I'm healing faster than I can actually take damage, what this is going to do is allow you to basically heal yourself or other things. So if you use Projectile and Heal, you're obviously going to heal something that's close to you. But if you use it on yourself, if I need to do this before I die, if I use it on myself here and then use Heal, if I can find it, just here, if I heal myself here, it's going to heal a portion of my hearts. So what you can do is use this with Amplify, and then eventually you're going to have enough that you can actually just heal your whole hotbar. Next we're going to have is Slow Fall. This is going to be basically your way of stopping yourself from falling when instead of using Bounce now. So if we wanted to have something like Self, and then we wanted to have Leap, which is here, to make ourselves fly a decent amount, what we can now do is have Slow Fall as well, with a bit of duration down, just so we're not stuck in slow fall, as you see here. So we have 20 seconds of slow fall, which allows us to basically travel a little bit better. It's almost like early Elytra flight now, which is pretty cool. I don't have to worry about bouncing and then redoing my leap again, as we showed in the earlier episodes. Next we have is Grow. Grow, you can probably guess what this is going to be. Grow is going to be basically about you making things as if they're bone mealed. So we'll put this on here. We can have an AoE effect, and we can have it as Pierce if we were shooting it, but we can put this on things like Cactus apparently is not a thing. However, Wheat is, and as you can see, it's because I've got so much Amplify, it's doing basically an insta grow thing here. Or so much grow, not even Amplify. I've just added multiple, but there you go. Now it's a 1 bone meal effect. But if I keep adding it, of course, it's going to be a lot more powerful. All the seeds. Next we have Conjure Water. This is going to be very, very simple. All it does is simply make ourselves a water source, which is very nice. Next we have is Explosion. Explosion does the exact same thing as essentially Conjure Water, except it's going to cause an explosion. Who would have thought? Now if you use Extract on this, it's going to stop blocks from breaking. But just for example, let's blow up this center over here with a Touch we're obviously using. This would be better as a projectile probably, but as you can see, we have got ourselves an explosion. Now if we get loads of blocks on the floor here, what we can do is, as I say, add Extract, and it will stop any... Apparently I deleted those items. It will stop any blocks that have been blown up to be destroyed. As you see, they just dropped to the depths there. Next we have here is the Glyph of Gravity. Now this is an interesting one. The Glyph of Gravity can affect both blocks, and it can also affect mobs as well. So with the gravity effect, it will cause blocks that don't usually have gravity to now have gravity, as you see here. As well as that, if you do use it on an entity, it's going to obviously cause them to fall. However, if you use something like Extend Time on it, what it's going to do, if you use it on, say, a player, it's going to ruin their ability to actually fly. Even if someone had something like an Angel Ring or something and you shot them with this, they would no longer be able to fly, and when they take full damage, they take double the full damage. Next we have here is Crush. Crush is an interesting one, as it's going to be sort of a impromptu grinder sort of effect. So if I get down a load of stone here and then we have Crush, it's going to be similar to a break. However, it's not going to be quite as good. We will keep this on Amplify like this, and then if we have Crush just like so, what it's going to do is going to turn stone into gravel, as you see here. It hasn't actually mined it up, but it's turned it into gravel. Now you can do this again, you can turn it to sand, but I don't think you can turn it any more after that. So it's pretty interesting. It's a way of basically you could auto-generate yourself some gravel or sand if you obviously have a stone generator. Now it does have some other effects. You can use it to actually give damage to entities, at least it says it can. Also, it needs sensitive to work on entities, as you can see here. So if we get ourselves some sensitive now it should work on entities. However, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be these types of entities. So if I fire this now, it's turned it all into gravel. If I do it again, it's turned it all into sand. So you can do a lot like that, but that's only with sensitive, as you see there. As it also reads as well, you can use this to turn flowers into their different dyes. Now here it says it will also harm entities and deal bonus damage to entities that are swimming. So it does work on entities, but for whatever reason it's not working on a little starbuncle here. Maybe I can find a fish. Here's some fish. Let's see what it does. If I can actually hit them. It does nothing. Maybe I need to add harm first. And why not amplify this as well? Let's amplify it and then sensitive it. Hello, little fishy. You didn't take nearly as much damage as I thought you would. 2.5 hearts. Oh well. Then we have access end inventory. You can probably guess what this does. It doesn't do a lot. We'll just do self and then access end inventory, and this will simply allow you to open your ender chest. So without even finding an ender chest or building one, you will now have access to your ender chest. So you could probably use this as your shulker box setup. An infinite backpack nearly. Next we have is Cold Snap. Cold Snap is going to be a sort of projectile effect, and this has been essentially, it's going to affect different mobs in different ways. So first, you're going to want them to be in a certain way. Cold Snap by default is only going to basically make any entities slowed. However, if they are wet or slowed already, they will get extra effects. Now this can be amplified as well as add the AoE effect or extend time on it, of course. But if we make this now and then get ourselves some spider friends, these are going to have some certain movements, but when I hit them with Cold Snap, they are going to be slowed if they actually are walking around. How about we do the dangerous game of doing this? Just like so. Come after me. You don't seem to be that slow here, Mr. Cold Snap. What about when you're wet? There you go, now you're taking damage. Maybe they just have to be wet first. As you can see, they've got various effects. They've got snared. So they can't, I suppose you can't actually move. But for the full list, as you can see here, if they're affected by slowness or freezing or they're wet, then they'll be affected by different things. So it's a good way of getting them to not move. Then we've got Sense Magic. This is going to be a way of basically finding different mobs that are underground or through walls, essentially. But first, you are going to have them near you first. So if we have a spider and then we do magic sense on them, we're going to be able to see, oh, apparently you just see all the entities that are nearby in a 75 block radius. So yeah, there are a lot of entities nearby here. It also reveals spells on certain runes, or on all runes. And apparently it's not just mobs, it's magical mobs. So it's a good way of just finding these fellas in, say, the Archwood Forest. Next we have Glyph of Name. Glyph of Name is going to allow you to basically name any site or creature, and it does it using your spell name. So if we have touch and then the spell name, we could have this be our little friend Subscribe. I like our little friend Subscribe, and now we can just simply name him, and now we have a little name. Hello, Subscribe. Next we have the Glyph of Infused. Infused is basically going to allow you to set a spell or set a potion effect on any entity that it touches. Now you have to be holding a potion for it to actually work. However, it's going to use up that potion also. So it's not like getting free potions. It's basically like throwing a potion. So if we hold this here on our offhand, this is going to be instant damage we've got here, as you see here. If I fire that now, it should do instant damage. I guess not. What if your touch? How does touch work? Maybe instant damage doesn't work on these fellas? How about we go for something like invisibility instead? Well, I just threw that one there. What if it's not in your offhand? Something that's just held. There we go. I suppose it just has to be in your inventory. How about we try for instant damage again? Just like so. Yes. Instant damage works. There you go, that's the way to do it. Not in your offhand, just in your inventory. Next we have the Glyph of Invisibility. You can probably guess what this is, especially if you use it on self. Just like so, you will become invisible. Just make sure you're not holding anything. Now you can probably use this on another entity as well at the same time. So how about we have this as projectile and put it on our Starbuncle. Visible Subscribe. Next we have smelt. You can probably guess what this does. If we get ourselves some ore here, we can actually end up smelting ourselves some iron, just like so. We've already learned it, of course. So let's get ourselves some projectile, and then we want smelt, if I can find it, just like so. And then we can place a few of these down, and it will automatically smelt these items for us, which is very nice. As well as that, you can also have it do work on the floor. And apparently that's the first time I got iron. There we go. We're now smelting a hell of a lot of things. Now be careful though, you don't have a mod that will re-smelt your iron, because obviously this won't really work. Now something else you can do on here as well is you can add amplify in order to smelt higher hardening things. So I know you can't really smelt obsidian unless you have a mod that allows it, but you would need to have amplify for all that to work, of course. This can also be used with the AoE effect to increase the number of items it does, as well as if it's in blocks, it will maybe do a 2x2 and then a 3x3 area. Next we have is the wind shears. The wind shears is going to be a way of attacking any types of mob that is in the air. It will not actually damage any mobs that are on the ground, surprisingly enough. So we're going to need, first we're going to need this to be as a projectile since we're going to be firing it, and then we're going to need the wind shears, not knockback. They do look very similar. Here we go, the wind shears. So if I fire this now at my little friend here, nothing's going to happen. However, if I get a phantom right now and they were flying in the sky, or we also need to be off peaceful as you see here, we can start damaging them with this. And you see there's a little air effect. So it's going to be a little bit hard to actually get them, but as you can see they are getting a wind shear effect. Now the amount of damage you put onto them depends on how high they are off the ground, and that works up to 10 blocks. So the higher they are up in the sky, up to 10 blocks, the more damage you're going to do per hit. It's times like this you're probably going to want to have your accelerate spell, because these guys are hard to hit. Next we have the glyph of the flare. This guy is going to actually cause enemies that are on fire to have some little extra pain come towards them. So let's go for flare first. Nothing's going to happen. It's not going to set them on fire. It's not actually going to do anything. But if we have them set on fire first, let's see, do we have a fire one already? There we go, we have ignite. So if we do ignite first, then we'll have a delay. We'll have a short delay with duration down, and then we'll have flare. What's going to happen is they are going to take a lot of damage here, as you can see. They're going to take damage over time, but as well as that, they are going to have other effects happen to them. There you go. A big burst of basically flare stuff happens, and it affects multiple entities. So we have this guy first. As you can see, it spread the fire as we hit them. There's a small explosion and it spreads the fire to nearby entities. As you can see, that's the flare effect happening there. Now we can amplify this as well, and then we can also get ourselves some AoE effect. So we can make these guys die very quickly, as you can see here. A lot more powerful than normal harm. Oh no, a starbunkle. The last glyph we have is firework. Now this is just going to simply make a firework, as you see here. So the firework is going to be working from wherever either the projectile lands or where you touch, and all it will do is simply launch a firework. There's a couple of ways to change things around, so we can obviously add extend time, and this is going to make it fly a lot longer. We then also have amplify as well, which is going to essentially increase the explosion. Which just like so, as you can see here. So the more you have, it looks like you can only have 2. What's level 1 do? The simple black one. So there you go. You can make a very nice fireworks. There are other things you can do as well though. So you can actually have your own custom fireworks. So if you have a firework in your inventory, it's going to mimic your existing firework that you created. As well as that is that if you have this being fired out of a spell turret with touch, it will work as if a firework has just been dispensed. So since we're going over some tier 2 things, how about we go over some tier 2 armors? Now we've covered how armors work and how to upgrade them with their different sort of augments that you can have on them in our very first basics episode. However, we did not cover how you actually upgrade them into their different tiers, only how they work. Now each tier of armor, we obviously know, give different magical effects. So the sorcerer's outfit is going to be very good for spell casting. The anarchist is a little bit better for a bit of both, and then the battle mage is going to be basically very good for defense but not very good for magic casting. Now each 3 of these sets, as well as all 4 items in each set, are all upgraded to tier 2 in the exact same way, and that is by taking yourselves your desired piece of clothing, putting it in the apparatus chamber with 2 blaze rods, and then putting it in the apparatus chamber. Now this is going to need some source nearby, as you can see here, and there is a cost. I believe it's about 2,000 per time, but for this we're just going to use a create a source jar. We place it inside of here. And now while that's going away, we will just demonstrate it inside of here. So it's in JEI in this magic armor upgrade, as you can see here. This is tier 3, but tier 2 is like this, and it uses 2,500 source. For tier 3, it's very similar, just for 5,000 source. But we're not covering tier 3 today. And there we go. We have a little bit of an upgraded helmet, and now we have a level 2 and a level 1 slot in my tier 2, which is very nice. As a brief overview again here, as you can see, we have got different levels of stuff, and now that we are in tier 2. So there is a big difference between the sorcerer and the mid-range. As you see, we obviously lose our level 2 here, but when we're on battle mage, it's literally nothing. But for now, guys, surprisingly enough, that is going to actually be everything when it comes to tier 2. Now, it's up to you guys, but I reckon next time we should probably go straight into tier 3. That way we can just start showing off all the last things that we can do inside of the mod without worrying about what tiers that we're actually going to need. So if this video helped you out in any way, shape or form, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And ring the bell button to stay notified when these videos goes live. We are slowly becoming very powerful mages now, and with all the automation you're probably doing, you are probably well on your way on becoming a well and true sorcerer. But until next time, guys, take care.